So, I live in San Juan County on the Utah side. I was with some friends and we wanted to party, and my friend said her boyfriend had alcohol, so we went to his house. We ended up in this place on the res, in the middle of nowhere, by a shack, and found him and his dog asleep in a ditch. The first thing I notice is that there are bones everywhere. Next, the dog got up, but it got up really creepily. I've never been afraid of any dog ever, but the way this one got up gave me the chills. It was super skinny looking and looked like it had mange because its fur was patchy and its skin looked leathery. Its eyes looked human, and it kept balancing on the back of its legs while crouched over. The whites of his eyes were also red, while the irises were a light brown. Next, the guy got up. He was really sketchy. At first, we just thought he was a drunk, but he was acting incredibly strange. As soon as he got in the car, it reeked like actual death. Like he smelled rotten and foul. We had to roll the windows down. He was wearing baggy clothing and 4 different jackets. We'll call him B. He was talking incoherently and kept yawning while he talked, but he seemed to walk mostly normal, except he had a weird limp that made him sway with every step. Turned out he didn't have any drinks, but we had already gotten him, so we went to go get another friend that we knew. So, we pick up this friend. We'll call him A. A has alcohol, but we have nowhere to party, so B says he knows a spot. We proceed to let B guide us back to the res and to a really sketchy trailer a few miles away where we initially picked him up at. The dog is there, waiting for us. At this point, I just wanted to go home because the whole scenario was giving me awful vibes, and everything in my body was telling me I needed to leave. I'm not a superstitious person at all either, but B's girlfriend was my ride home, so I had no other choice. I decided at that moment that I wasn't going to drink or do drugs with them because of the circumstances. We get out of the car, and the creepy dog comes straight towards me and knocks me down and starts trying to hunt me. B got the dog off me immediately though, and I ran into the abandoned trailer camper. Some of the windows were broken and everything was old and dusty. The carpet was torn up and there was no furniture except for some lawn chairs. I took a seat, and I hear B whisper to A that he has some spice. My 3 other friends get into the trailer with me and start taking shots of alcohol that A brought. B whips out a bowl to smoke something. My friend asks what it is, and he says it's weed. They start smoking, and it doesn't smell like weed at all. I look at it under the flashlight and realize it is indeed spice, and try telling them that it's not weed and that we should probably leave. They make fun of me and take more shots and more hits. I look out the window and see the creepy dog crawling and running around the trailer. A, at this point, is pretty drunk and starts yelling at B for killing his dad a few days prior. B gets flustered and leaves with his girlfriend. A few minutes later, the dog tries to open the door with its paws. It doesn't succeed, but I could see it trying since the door had a window. I got really scared because this dog was not normal and was just staring at me through the glass. I start sharing my location with a few people in case something wrong happens. A is crying about how B murdered his dad on the res and that he can't bring himself to forgive B for what he's done. They are apparently close cousins. I just wanted to go home. B returns with his girlfriend and a fight breaks out, so we all leave B and his dog at the trailer. Then, B's girlfriend randomly has a psychotic episode as we get back to town and decides she wants everybody else in the car to walk home. She screams at them to get out, and they all walk for over a mile to get to their homes. She drops me off for some reason, without saying a word. When I get home, I check my phone to find that my friends were scared because something kept throwing rocks at them on their way back. Anyway, I'm literally convinced this was an experience with a skinwalker, or something. Everything there was Navajo, except me, if that makes a difference. I know it's cheesy in writing, but it was actually really scary, and I was crying on the way back home. I don't know how to describe the dog and the way it walked, but it wasn't normal. Anyway, I might just be paranoid, but everything about the situation was honestly just so scary and weird that I felt like I needed to share it with somebody and see what their thoughts were. I've been terrified and haven't been able to sleep because if it wasn't a skinwalker, it was a murderer who probably hadn't showered since the murder, that had a creepy dog that tried to drug us. What do you think? So, I had this experience that happened when I was about 8 or 9 with my parents. Every time I think of the story, talk about it, try to tell someone, I literally get goosebumps and my eyes water. Even typing this, I have goosebumps and my eyes are watering. I have accidentally found this and I have the same goosebumps again. I do believe what I saw as a child was a skinwalker, and now I'm incredibly frightened. Before I dive into my encounter, does anyone know any more information that's actually legit? As far as the story goes, I live on the East Coast of the United States. I was at a park with my mother and father when I was just a kid. I was playing on the playground, but the sun was going down, and my parents told me that we had to leave. So, we started to walk back to the parking lot. As we walked through this very heavily wooded park, me and my mother see something. We were in a more open, circular, green, grassy area, surrounded by total forest. We were on one side, and this thing came out from the woods on the other side. Pause. This is where I have to stop and take a breath, because as I write this, my eyes are watering, and I'm getting goosebumps. This is so hard to talk about. Back to the story. John, look at that over in the woods, my mother says to my father. I grabbed my mother's hand and asked her what it was. She just said in this really shaky voice, I don't know, but it's not normal. My dad proceeded to tell us that it is just a deer and to keep moving before we scare it. But then this creature looked at us. It wasn't super close, so all I could see was this white thing on all fours, with a head shaped like the dumb stereotypical aliens we see on TV. It was not something I had ever seen. After it noticed us 100%, it walked forward. Then it stood up on 2 legs and walked closer. Not like an animal anymore, but like a human. I still couldn't make out a face, and to this day can't. But it wasn't a deer. When it switched to 2 legs, it still looked like this white, oddly shaped thing. Again, kind of like a typical alien we see on TV. My mother and I stood in total shock, fear, and awe. We didn't move our bodies. The only thing that moved was our hands clasped, which grew tighter and tighter. My father, on the other hand, is a total disbeliever in anything supernatural or religious. So, him being totally fine was just standing watching what we thought was a deer. After this thing scared the living hell out of us and made our spines tingle, it turned around and ran back into the woods. First on 2 legs, then on all 4. My mother and I didn't speak about it until we got in the safety of our home back in the city, a good hour from this foresty park. But to this day, only me and my mother really remember what we saw and how bone-chilling it was. And as I said, I literally cannot talk about it or even write this without having to wipe my eyes, which just keep watering, and my nose, which keeps running. I can wipe away my tears and my snot, but the goosebumps remain. If you stuck and read through all of that, I appreciate it. It's something that still gives me the creeps today. Honestly, it's single-handedly the most terrifying otherworld type of experience I've ever had, which I only have one other. Here's some bonus information about me. I live on the East Coast. I'm a quarter Native American. My mother's father was full-blooded, and her mother was half. But her father was taken to one of those re-education schools back in the day. They would take Native American children, erase their culture, and make them essentially good white children. I have no clue if any of this is relevant. I just read that skinwalkers are a Native American thing. My dad is not Native at all. When I was a kid, I told other paranormal buffs on my school about this experience, and they said it sounded like the Jersey Devil, which apparently has been seen on the East Coast.